Our story begins by showing us indigenous peoples walking in a jungle. This gets contrasted with a backhoe destroying the surrounding area. During the opening credits, we fly over the jungle in which this is taking place. The scene changes drastically to show a rally taking place on a college campus. The group is on strike for health insurance. Another switch occurs to show our protagonist lying in bed. She is Justine, looking out the window to witness the rally that very likely woke her up. Her roommate, Casey, expresses her dark thoughts by hoping the protesters starve to their demise. Then the two friends walk outside together. Arriving back on campus, Casey teases the activists with a bagel. She says they deserve much worse for waking them up on Sunday. She also says there is something creepy about the one playing the guitar. Justine thinks it could be either that or charisma. In a classroom, the duo sits to listen to the instructor talk about female genital mutilation. She shows the students the weapon for such a disturbing task. When Casey asks why it gets done, she is told the villages don't consider them women unless they go through this ordeal. Bothered by this, Justine says her father is a lawyer in the United Nations and could get involved in this matter somehow. The instructor replies that FGM is a global problem. Stopping it would require every lawyer in the United Nations. Once they exit the classroom, the duo gets approached by one of the activists, Jonah. He gives Justine a flyer from their group, saying Alejandro asked him to give it to her. They see the guy within their vicinity. Jonah encourages her to visit their group. We learn that some of them starve themselves, but not all. Jonah, for instance, disregards that. They are celebrating because the school is giving health insurance to the janitors. Later, Justine is at a fancy restaurant with her dad. She talks about the horrors of FGM with him. He responds that they can't just invade a country because they think they're doing something illegal or immoral. Changing the topic, he asks her where her necklace is. Justine tells him it's in her dorm. She forgot to wear it. At the end of the scene, we see Casey was with them the whole time. Asking him if he will consume his cheese bread, he lets her eat it. Elsewhere, we observe Alejandro asking his group of activists if they had fantasies of saving a tribe. If they have, their fantasies could become a reality. Because in 2 weeks an Amazon tribe in Peru will be in great danger. Certain companies want the natural gas that resides within their land. Justine is there to ask what the plan is. After making a sarcastic comment about how the issue will be attacked, Alejandro gets offended by her talk and tells her to leave. So she listens to the leader. As she's walking outside, Jonah rushes out to tell her Alejandro takes his work seriously. The next scene has Justine lying in her bed. She takes out the aforementioned necklace from her drawer. On the next day, she runs up to Alejandro, telling him she's sorry about last night. He says they need people who are serious about making change. He then asks her what cause she cares about the most. Women's rights in Africa is what she answers. Alejandro says that to change something, one must organize a group to go there along with acquiring media attention. People must be shamed to change. After that, he says Justine is not ready for this project. The girl protests, saying she can prove her seriousness. At another time, she joins the group again. There, we learn that the activists will be going against ex-military personnel in Peru. The Peruvian government should notice it, according to the leader. He believes that once the construction crew knows they are being filmed, everything will change. Following this, Justine sits with Casey. The latter tells her she will meet her untimely demise protesting in Peru. She thinks there are non-violent ways to make a point. Afterward, our heroine talks to her dad about her trip over the phone. She says it's just a school trip, but the man tells her it's a dangerous country. She has to cut the phone call short because his concern is something she could do without. Before she leaves, she collects her necklace. She also hugs Casey prior to entering a taxi. The girl wants Justine to be safe. The scene changes to show the group's arrival in Peru. Soon Alejandro introduces a man named Carlos to everyone. Then they all enter a smaller plane. Justine sees the two Spanish guys talking about her while she gets on. When they are flying, Alejandro says Carlos is making this dream a reality. After the plane ride, the group sits inside tuk-tuks. Jonah rides with Justine, enjoying the sights of Peru. Eventually, they arrive at the building where they will get ready for their journey. Inside, Jonah tells a member that although she got her yellow fever shot, she could still get infected by the virus. This scares her to the point of taking his spray from him. After that, the member, Daniel, tells them all to give him their phones so he can set up the streaming app. Alejandro says that no matter what happens tomorrow, they should keep streaming. Their cameras are their only defense. Some members get scared upon learning the opposing side will have guns. Once one of the girls says they should take guns too, Alejandro holds up a phone to emphasize their phones are their guns. If anyone wants to remove themselves from this mission, he says they can do so. Yet no one does, now that they've come this far. In the next scene, the activists divide themselves into two boats. As they ride in them, Justine takes a video of the exotic nature. Daniel advises her to save her battery. Soon, the member Lars mentions going to the toilet. Therefore, they stop the boat and give him a machete to deal with the snakes. Scared of the lethal reptiles, he says he can hold it in. Justine, however, takes the weapon to go do it. The girl is braver than him. That causes him to change his mind. Since she took the machete, Lars is now given a handgun. While he's relieving himself, we see a spider crawling within his sight that he doesn't see because he's too busy feeling relieved. The guy is inhabiting a dangerous jungle, especially for the first time, yet he isn't on the constant lookout for the dangers just mentioned to him. When Justine returns to the boat, she asks where Lars is. Suddenly, they hear gunfire. He comes rushing back in fear due to finally noticing the spider. They all laugh at his unfortunate situation. Continuing their ride through the water, the gang sees a black jaguar on the rocks. They all love it, to the point of taking pictures or videos of it. Carlos says the tribe in this area thinks the black jaguar is the guardian of nature. They also think it carries sinners to hell. To Alejandro, this is a good omen. Eventually, the group arrives at their destination. They all change their clothes into yellow jumpsuits before they start walking. Soon they come to a place where they see people in the same outfit. All the members are then given masks to wear. Alejandro says they are now one face. With that, they walk out there to start their protest. They take out chains, with which they secure themselves to the trees. The chains are supposed to be locked, but Justine struggles to connect hers. Meanwhile, the group starts streaming the area with their phones. After an explosion takes place, the group starts chanting that this is the Yage tribe's home, the workers should leave. This makes the militia run toward the protesters. They start pulling at the chains, though they are tightly secured. One of them takes Justine's phone and shoots it. This is followed by him taking her away from the tree, because she never locked herself to it. He holds a gun to her head. Alejandro demands that the group does not stop filming this. The militia will eliminate Justine if they do. He also says to all their viewers that the militia is about to end the daughter of a man who works in the United Nations. Upon his saying this, Justine is shocked to hear it. Soon enough, the one holding the gun to Justine gets a phone call. That prompts all the ex-military personnel to lower their weapon. Justine cries out of fear. The rest of the gang removes their masks and experiences a moment of relief. They get taken back to their boats, where they travel back in handcuffs. Back on the road, they get their handcuffs removed. We also witness an interesting happening, and Carlos paying one of the senior military personnel. As they fly in the plane, the group celebrates their accomplishment with beer. Jonah gets excited that they are trending worldwide. Alejandro reads that their protest saved the tribe they defended. The activists offer their applause to this news. However, Justine sits there in anger. Alejandro thinks she should celebrate. She is a hero. All she can say to him is he was going to let them take her life. The man fires back that she knew the risks. Since she begged him to join, he created a role for her. Jonah tries to comfort her by saying Alejandro did not mean for it to happen the way it did. Disagreeing with him, she says that's exactly what he wanted. She now thinks going there was a mistake. Jonah wants her to reconsider that thought by reminding her of what they saved. As the group is having a great time enjoying their success, disaster rears its ugly head in the form of their plane experiencing a sudden catastrophic problem. It starts going down. The rear end even rips open, causing some people to fly out. It doesn't take long for the plane to crash. The people try to collect themselves, having a hard time believing this happened to them. When they start exiting the plane, we see not everyone survived the crash. One of them accidentally walks into a slowly spinning propeller and loses his life. Even at its substantially lessened speed, it was enough to do such damage. There is some good news amid this chaos, in that Daniel says he can send a distress signal from the GPS. Alejandro, being the leader, tells everyone to stay calm. He says their task is to search for the GPS. Then the plane explodes, causing Lars to say they're in real trouble. Shortly after, the group sees the movement of other people. Out of nowhere, Alejandro's girlfriend gets an arrow shot through her. The other members start getting shot with darts, which puts them into an unconscious state. Finding the GPS, Daniel gets darted too. Alejandro tries tending to his girlfriend, only to lose her completely to another arrow. Lucky for him, he gets a dart instead. Justine is the last to go down. Upon waking up, she observes she is in a boat, being taken somewhere by indigenous people. A particularly intimidating one turns to look at her. The man has bones around his head, connecting to his nose. He utters something in his language. At that moment, we see several boats as they transport the captured survivors. Soon they arrive at their tribe, where there are dozens of red-colored indigenous people. They all come to touch the very unusual civilized humans, while the latter are getting taken from the boats. The first frightening aspect of this tribe we witness is a skeleton hanging on a pole. It gives us an idea of what this tribe does. There is even a head on a pike. The tribespeople continue to touch the activists, filling the group with fear. They take the injured survivors somewhere. For a brief moment, we see a cell phone getting destroyed. This is how the tribespeople react to civilization. Before long, a special lady comes out. That looks like she could be either the village chieftain or elder. She is colored yellow, instead of the common red, to give this distinction. Once she approaches them all, her people stop making noise. She starts inspecting the strange people from another world, showing us that one of her eyes is entirely white. The leader takes some interest in Justine for some reason, even announcing something into the air. She then orders for these strange people to be taken away. They get placed in a sizable wooden cage. Panic is the primary emotion that dominates their minds. Soon, Justine wonders where Jonah is. Lars yells out to him, and we see the young man is the only one not in the cage. He is given something to drink, which he thanks the tribespeople for giving him. After that, they lay him down on a rock. Several of them come to hold him. The leader comes to Jonah to remove something from him with her sharp tool. This fuels the group with more fear. The helpless man's eyes are removed next. Following this, the man with the bones on his head starts severing Jonah's limbs before presenting them to the tribe. Unfortunately, he loses his life horrifically. To make it worse, the people who took it away are the kind he protested to save. We see how Justine is taken away by all this. Later, we see several tribeswomen preparing Jonah's body for something. When they place it in their hut-like oven, we realize what it's for. As he rests on Justine, Lars says he can smell his friend being cooked. Alejandro tries using his phone, but Daniel says it's useless. One girl asks the leader why they are being treated this way. Alejandro answers that the indigenous people believe them to be the enemy. He also says there is nothing they can do. It doesn't take long for the tribe to start consuming what they cooked. This is the horror of what our survivors are going to have to deal with. At night, Lars says he wishes he lost his life in the plane crash. Justine has a more positive thought, saying that someone should be looking for them. Staying pessimistic, Lars says that is not true. Daniel introduces their realistic chance of survival by getting the GPS before the battery goes out. Yet Alejandro says their best chance is to stay there in the cage. This prompts Lars to insult the leader, adding they should feed him to the tribe. Alejandro says there are more bulldozers on the way. This surprises Daniel. At that point, the leader says they didn't stop anything. They just delayed it by 2 days at the most. More importantly, he says it was all a publicity stunt. Carlos was hired by a competing company to stop the workers from reaching the village first. After he did it, Alejandro's organization acquired worldwide fame. He says many people will join them now, which will pave the way for them to make real change occur. Daniel is confused to hear him say all this. Alejandro continues that this tribe never had a chance, because they are standing on a lot of money. Justine can't believe the deceit she had to go through. To her disbelief, the leader gives her a reality check that the good guys are connected to the bad guys. He also mentions several popular movements as being fake to defend himself. Everything is so deceitfully organized that he even thinks the plane was sabotaged to eliminate Carlo. Lars thinks that what Alejandro says could be good news. If he is right, bulldozers will destroy the tribe. Although the man who claims to possess such expertise says it could be 3 days until they arrive. During that time, he advises the group not to upset the tribe. He dares to say they should be thankful the tribe eliminated Jonah first. The big guy could feed them for a week. Of course, this angers the group to the point of wanting to hurt him. But the member, Samantha, prevents that by saying he's not worth their energy. She also says she can get out of there with the gang's help. As they offer their support to lift her out of the cage, she instantly gets shot with a dart to knock her out. This isn't going to be easy for them. Alejandro just shakes his head at Samantha's attempt, like he knew it wasn't going to work. In the morning, one of the children touches Justine's flute necklace. She wakes up to see him do it, and plays it for him. Then the black-colored tribesman enters the cage. He came to retrieve the females. Once he does, certain villagers start undressing them for the leader to inspect them. All they can do is cry due to knowing what happened to Jonah. Justine is the last to be inspected. The leader discovers she is a virgin, causing the villagers to rejoice. Right after that, she gets dust blown on her, which makes her lose consciousness. The poor girl gets taken elsewhere. Back at the cage, Samantha wants to try exiting again. To help her, Daniel takes out his phone for Lars to throw it out. Since it makes a sound, the guard is distracted by it. This allows Samantha to climb out of the cage without getting stunned by the dart. She runs to the boat at the shore, managing to hide herself in it. We wonder if her attempt at escaping will work. However, if they find her like this, who knows what the consequences could be. Later, the villagers bring Justine back in white paint. She can't recall what they did to her. Daniel tells Alejandro the villagers will cut her, and she will lose her life to the infection. All the man says is that they get more days of living, if that takes place. That prompts Daniel to question who Alejandro truly is. He simply cannot believe the kind of person he joined. Afterward, children come to bring food to the captives. The boy to who Justine played her miniature flute delivers her food. In return, she plays for him again. Alejandro tells her that such a task is useless. Since the gang sees him eating the strange food, they eat it too. The group organizer eats it unreservedly, like he's done it before. When the girl, Amy, finishes it, she sees Samantha's tattoo in the bowl. At that moment, we witness the children wearing parts of Samantha's skin. It looks like her plan to escape resulted in this. All of this is too much for Amy to bear, causing the girl to terminate her stay in the cage. Once the shock of her demise wears off, Lars gets the idea to hide marijuana inside her because he knows she's going to the oven. He wants the villagers to be affected by it. Soon the most intimidating of the tribesmen arrives again, noticing the lifeless Amy. They put her in the oven, just as Lars expected. Alejandra tells the group that these villagers consume marijuana regularly. Therefore, their plan to affect them strongly with it is not likely to work. However, upon consuming Amy, the villagers are quite affected by what was placed in her. Many of them fall asleep, and even the guard falls. Lars humiliates Alejandro that the plan worked. While the three of them are using this time to escape, Alejandro takes a dart that was stuck to the cage to insert it into Lars. He does it so he won't be left alone in the cage with the frightening indigenous people. Daniel threatens to take his life for that. Then there is nothing left to do except for the duo to start running away. At a different time, Lars awakens to see two villagers looking down on him. He is thankful that they are still affected by the substance he placed in Amy. He does a trick with his hands to laugh with them, but that was a mistake because they start biting them. Trying to run away, Lars gets caught by a great number of villagers. They bring him to his doom. Following this, the two escapees run near the water. Justine manages to fall into it, being taken by the stream. Daniel tries saving her by holding out a stick for her to grab when she is holding onto a rock. After she is saved, they make it to the plane crash area. A macabre sight greets them, in the form of the initial deceased group members being held up by pikes. Daniel locates the GPS, only to share the awful news of the battery being depleted. Yet some good light shines their way. They hear a phone beeping on one of the deceased. Daniel offers his help so Justine can collect it. Doing that, though, causes the body to fall on her. Even worse, the villagers are there to dart them again. There is no escape from this harsh jungle. They should have never come. Eventually, Justine wakes up to find herself being covered with something by a tribeswoman. We then switch to seeing Daniel tied to a pole. He gets a different substance smeared on him. The boy who Justine played her flute for takes out her necklace from her jumpsuit. She sees him being taken out of the hut with it. The substance Daniel was smeared with attracts dozens of aggressive ants to crawl on him. His sole way of dealing with this nightmare is to scream. Meanwhile, Justine is painted white again, except now, her appearance looks more complete. She yells to become free, because the leader comes to her intending to deliver to our heroine the dreadful FGM. Thankfully, the leader gets interrupted by something the villagers yell out. One of them comes to show the severed head of a construction worker. This makes the leader give a certain order. Obeying her, many of them go to arm themselves and start running into the wilderness. While Justine is restrained, the boy who has her necklace cuts the rope that holds her. This allows her to deal with the tribeswoman there, before starting her escape again. She comes to Daniel, who is still alive. He tells her to take his phone in addition to his life. Justine's inability to do that prompts the boy to blow the anesthetic dust at him. The moment Daniel is unconscious, the boy takes his life. Since he did it that way, he shows he is not sadistic, like the rest of his tribe. Afterward, Alejandro sees Justine, causing him to plead for her to free him. In her mind, he is undeserving of that, so she runs with the boy, while Alejandro screams in desperation. Then the boy wants to give Justine her necklace back, but she lets him keep it. That is when they part ways. As she is running, she sees the black jaguar on a rock. Somehow she manages to pass nearby, without provoking the dangerous cat to attack her. One troublesome moment after the other leads our heroine into a war zone between the militia and the tribesmen. Of course, the militia has the upper hand. There, the black-colored tribesman grabs Justine's leg. He utters something to her before getting shot. At that point, Justine raises her arms, calling not to shoot her because she's an American. She holds out Daniel's phone, yelling to everyone that she is filming the battle. However, this is a lie due to the phone being broken. She finds the man who previously held a gun to her head to inform him that he's being streamed. She soon drops the phone on a rock, prior to having other militia members come to her. The man picks it up, only to see it is broken. This way, he doesn't get to know if she was truly streaming or not. This causes her to get escorted to a helicopter. As she is flying away in it, Alejandro sees it and yells for help. Yet the help he receives is a dart to the shoulder. Justine sits there, relieved that she survived. The girl cheated her demise by surviving a tribe of savages, a jaguar, and the militia. Her luck is otherworldly. Back in the USA, she describes her experience in the Peruvian jungle to some government officials. If it were not for the villagers, she says, she would have lost her life. She lies that they helped her survive, along with never being scared. She also lies that the tribe never engaged in the consumption of people. We wonder why she defends them after all the harm they created. Perhaps she is trying to protect the boy who saved her. But is that enough to cover the rest of the tribe's crimes? Later, we see Alejandro running up to Justine on campus. He says he made it, prompting her to show him her grotesque teeth before biting him. If that moment was inconsistent with the rest of the stories happening, this is because it was Justine's dream. She wakes up from it to witness that outside her dorm there is another rally. All the activists are wearing shirts with Alejandro's face on them.